All right, so all those who have already joined, a very good morning to all of you. I'm Dr. Shaleen Srivastav, currently working in Central Bank of India as Chief Manager Data Analytics, and it's a great pleasure interacting with all of you on a Saturday morning. I know most of you must have woken up a little bit late, being a Saturday, and this being the fifth day of the final day of your FDP session. So naturally, I know that you all must be tired listening to lectures, but I hope this session will be something interesting and something where you can take a thing or two out of this session, because I wanted this session to be very interactive. As you know, I do keep giving lectures and I interact with students, so I really want this session also to be interactive with all of you. Interacting with me, asking me questions, clearing your doubts, so that at least there is a bridging of gap between what industry expects out of you and what is the current situation. So before I begin, let me first thank Dr. Naveen Sheth, Honorable Vice Chancellor of GTU, Dr. K.N. Kher, Registrar, Dr. Patel, who is Director of GSMS, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to interact with all of you. And when a person coming from an industry interacts with people, the main motive of the session is to make you understand what is industry currently doing and what is expected out of the students and the participants coming out of universities like GTU and other good universities. So in today's session, my motive will be to make you aware about how fintech is actually changing the entire landscape in BFSI sector. When it comes to BFSI, I think all of you must be knowing it as banking, financial services, and insurance sector. I am primarily working in banking sector, but I can also tell you about financial services and insurance, how things are changing. Right. So, for example, before I actually show you the slides and begin my session, I'll tell you how insurance industry is changing. If we actually see the current scenario, we have a huge scope to penetrate in insurance, because insurance is right now, general insurance, if we talk about it, is only 1% penetration in India. And when we talk about life insurance, only 2.2% is the penetration. So the kind of scope that we have in insurance industry per se is just excellent, because insurance industry itself is changing a lot. It is, I can say, 20 years younger now after privatization thing happening. More and more FDI is now being allowed in insurance, so that there's a lot of foreign inflow also coming into this industry. Now, this fintech, the way the fintech is changing the role in insurance is also very interesting, because you all must have heard about Elon Musk, how he is changing Tesla as a company. So if I'll just give you a very small example, Tesla, as you all must be knowing, it's a car company, right? But what makes Tesla so different from the other car companies? I think we all should understand this difference, because then we will be able to make the importance of fintech much more meaningful. Tesla is not just a car company; it's a data-driven company, because every touch point, the electric vehicles that it is making, it has got a database where each and every action point of customer is stored in a database. Where you are driving, what is the driving route you have taken, at what speed are you driving. So all these data points are already stored in Tesla's main server as a database, and it is actually tracking you, and it will actually tell you and give you more meaningful offers or more meaningful data points to discover, so that they can provide you better services on the basis of data that you are actually throwing to the company. So Tesla is not just a normal car company, it's a data driven company, and that is why it is one of the most valuable companies in the entire world. So say, for example, in insurance, you have to come up with innovative solutions. So you can not only just give motor insurance, but you can actually also give driving behavior based insurance. So suppose there is a person who is driving at a speed of 100 and above, so the risk appetite for that person is very high. Similarly, if a person who is driving at an average speed of 30 to 40, his risk appetite will be low. So accordingly, the insurance premiums can be changed. Accordingly, insurance offers can be given to such customers, and so on and so forth. So this is just one example of insurance which I'm giving you. Of course, there is a lot of use cases when it comes to banking and financial services, which I'll be primarily talking about in my next couple of sessions. So what I have done is, for today's session, I have divided it into two parts. And if I may be allowed to show my screen, actually, that will be very useful for all of you to grasp. So, Naveen, I'll just share my screen. I hope that is okay.
Yes, that's fine.
I hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, great. All right. So the topic for today is fintech revolution in BFSI sector. I think all of you must have already, uh, seen lectures or heard lectures about fintech. So I'll not tell you and describe you what is fintech. That all of you are already aware. But what I will make sure in today's session is different aspects that you should understand, because ultimately when students are coming out of colleges, they should know how they should prepare for interviews, what is the current hottest trends in the market, and what are the areas where they can even focus on, what are the research projects that you all guys should do. So if I have to, really divide my entire session into two parts, I have in part one, I'll be giving you an introduction of how there is a paradigm shift in BFSI sector happening. What is the CRISP DM framework for analytical modeling that we use? What are the various types of analytics that we use? Descriptive, prescriptive, predictive. And I'll actually tell you the practical examples so that you are able to understand the concept really well. Next, I'm going to touch upon basic data models which are used in banking. We will also tell you, what are the various stages of making a machine learning model. I'll tell you about some practical examples in industry, not only in banking, financial services, but healthcare and other industries as well. In the part two of my session, I'll describe about how to develop skills in analytics. What is the basic design of a business analytics course? Because right now, if you see, even in the internet, there are so many data analytics courses, business analytics courses, and people are, just selling it for lakhs and lakhs of rupees. But you should be wise enough to understand which course is suitable for you, which course is not suitable for you, and only then you should apply for such a course. So I'll tell you what is a basic design of a good course, and then you can, accordingly decide on your own. Next, we will touch upon top 5 courses in data science, how you should prepare for interviews, how you should, do your CV building, how you should do your LinkedIn profile grooming, so that you are basically industry ready when you come out. Then I'll, of course, summarize and we will have an Q&A session. All right. So let me begin my session. So the first session is, first slide is all about how BFSI sector is actually changing. And I would just like to request Naveen that in case any participant is having any question in between, also you can, ask, not an issue at all. It's not that only at the end of the session you have to ask, you can ask in between also. And of course, in the end, we will have a general Q&A session wherein all of you will be invited, to ask whatever doubts you have or whatever queries you have, right? Okay, so I'll begin the session. Now, what is happening in the current scenario in the FSI sector is, earlier we used to talk about business process management or business process re-engineering. I think even in your MBA days, you must be, hearing about BPM, business process management, business process re-engineering. But now that is a traditional approach. Now people are no more focusing on business process re-engineering as such. They are focusing on analytics-based digital transformation. So at each process level, they are bringing analytics so that there is a digital transformation happening, not even in one sector, but in all the departments that the company is operating in. Similarly, in banking, the shift is from branch banking to doorstep banking. Even in banks, we don't want customers to come to the branches for their transactions, because the transaction cost for a customer who is stepping into the branch is very high as compared to the transactions which he is doing sitting at home. So even for banks, it is useful that customers do all their transactions sitting at home. So we are giving all sorts of digital platforms for customers to operate in: net banking, mobile banking, IMPS, RTGS, NEFT, and you can, right now we are also having a call center, the toll-free number. So all this is being done to, basically to give better services to the customer. So that is how the things are changing from branch banking to doorstep banking. Talking about financing now, earlier banks were only doing very conservative financing. They were only financing to very good companies, top-notch companies, and they were, kind of very conservative. But now the focus has shifted to value chain financing. Now, what do you mean by value chain? Suppose you are an industry, you are making something, you are just a manufacturer. So in the entire supply chain or value chain, there are many players. So you are manufacturing something, you are giving to wholesaler. Wholesaler is in turn giving it to retailer. Retailer in turn giving it to the direct customer. So there is a whole chain from supplier to the customer. Now, earlier, what we used to do, we used to only give, say, suppose to manufacturers an MSME term loan on 50 crores or 25 crores. But now we are focusing on each and every player in the supply chain. So if we are giving a certain limit or a certain cash credit facility to one particular player, we are also focusing on who are that player's suppliers, who are in turn their customers. So we are trying to give financing even to its suppliers and at the same time giving it to its customers, say for example wholesalers or retailers or people who are there in the entire chain, so that the entire chain is being taken care and there is no cash shortage or there is no cash stretching happening at any other level of the supply chain. So the focus has now shifted to value chain financing. Now, talking about lead generation. Earlier in banking, we used to only talk about traditional lead generation, but now the focus is totally shifting to FinTech co-origination. Now, what do you mean by that? That means nowadays, banks are even partnering with private companies who are actually bringing the leads from the market. They are doing their own due diligence and they are giving it to the bank saying that, hey, 80% of this particular requirement you will finance, 20% we will finance. We will have a term sharing agreement, okay? And the repayment will be taken care by us. Recovery will be taken care by us. It's just that you will have to do an extra layer of due diligence maybe and go ahead with financing. So it's a win-win situation for both the banks and the fintech players, because there is a double layer of security. There is more due diligence. There are lesser chances of loans becoming NPA or bad, and at the same time, the lead generation or the turnaround time for lead generation is very high, and that is like a good thing for the banks to process loans faster and increase its business. So that is how fintech co-origination is actually helping the banks to grow its business. What it used to be a year back or 2 years back, it has completely changed now in the last 1 year or so. So yes, there is a paradigm shift in lead generation also. Talking about data, now the next point is the data storage or the data privacy is also one of the very important factors when it comes to BFSI sector, because till now we were focusing mostly on on-prem data storage, that only the data which is there with us, it should not go outside the premises of the bank or the organization, and it should remain inside. The problem is, once you have the data inside, data is evolving every day. You are having huge amount of data, so you have to procure more hardware, you have to procure more system generated requirements are there, and then data extraction becomes little difficult, because then the data storage is so high that data extraction of transactional data or other data which we actually want on a real-time basis, that becomes difficult. Now when we are actually shifting to public cloud, what is happening is the data is being stored in cloud. So the data access or the data extraction becomes very easy, and then you can do a lot of juggling around with data. Say, for example, you can make analytical use cases, analytical models on a real-time basis. You can deploy them. You can, kind of change them frequently as per the business requirements, and that will actually give you very good results in the industry. So this is how the data is being changed. The storage is being changed from on-prem to public. Finally, the last point is how the decision making is being changed, even at the top level, at the top management level. Earlier, it was more of an intuition-based decision making, but now it is completely changing to data-driven decision making, because ultimately data points are important for you to make decisions. And for decision making nowadays, a lot of dashboards are being created. There are various platforms like Microsoft Power BI, there is Cognos Analytics by IBM. There are a lot of open source softwares like Nime Analytics and Orange, etc., which are actually helping you to make their dashboards and give you a perfect blend of how the business is actually happening in your organization. So this is how there is a paradigm shift in BFSI sector. Now this is something interesting for all of you guys, because you might have heard a lot of roles about data science. There is a data scientist, there is a data analyst, there is a data engineer, there is a data architect, there is a machine learning engineer, and there are so many roles nowadays. But what is the clear-cut difference between each of the roles? It is very important for you guys to understand, so that when you are coming out of the colleges and when you are getting placed, you should be knowing what role you are applying for, and for that particular role, what skill sets you must be having. Okay, so this is a slide which I have made to make you guys understand in the simplest possible way how a data science professional looks like. So for example, if we see the slide from bottom, so as I told you, that it's data storage is one part, but extracting that data is another part. So this extraction of data from various sources is being done by data engineer and data architect, and it is their role to utilize tools like ETL. ETL is basically extract, transform, and load. So ETL tools are being used, like Talent is there, Data Stage is there. These tools are being used to extract data from various source systems. Like there's a CBS, core banking system, there is a net banking system, there is a mobile banking system, there's a treasury data point, there is a loan management system. So there are various source systems. So your job is to extract data from meaningful data from these sources and then provide it to a data analyst so that he can further use this data for analytical modeling. So if you move a step above, this data analyst is basically using all these data sources extracted to make analytical models using machine learning like R, Python, SAS. These are the softwares that a data analyst is using. All right. So we have clearly understood data engineer, data analyst, right? Next, we are going to talk about business analyst. Now, what is a business analyst? A business analyst is someone who is acting as a mediator between data analyst and a business user. So what happens is, if we see business users are the ones who are functional in nature, functional in the sense that they are basically heading various departments of the organization. Say for example, I have written there is a recovery department, there's a retail department, HR department, agri department, marketing, treasury, operations, risk. So all these are various departments in the organization. So all these departments will tell you a business requirement or a business challenge, which they basically want to simplify using analytics. And that is where business analyst role comes, because what he will do is he will understand the business requirement from the business users, and then he will go to his data analyst and say, hey, this is the business challenge that we have got from this particular department. Are we having enough data to basically solve this problem? So he will actually turn data into useful insights. He will understand and solve business problems. So that is the role of a business analyst. And as an MBA fresher or as an MBA student, you must be specializing in finance, HR, marketing. So for you guys, it is a very lucrative role, so that you can be fixed, or you can actually play a very good role in the industry being a business analyst, right? So this is a business analyst. Business users already are there. And then comes finally a person who is known as data scientist. Now, what is the role of a data scientist? As you can see in the slide, a data scientist is someone who is managing the entire show. So he is someone who is also looking at data architect and data engineer and guiding him about how to extract data. He will also guide data analyst and see and check his models and validate whether those models are being built correctly or not. He will also see how a business analyst is actually, understanding the business problem, whether the problem has been translated well enough to the data analyst or not. And he will also be interacting with business users, so that ultimately when the model results are being prepared by data analyst, he will show those model results to the business users. He will show the dashboards, he will show it, for various decision making, and he will make sure that the business users are happy with the performance of the entire data management. So that is the role of a data scientist. These are basically the 4-5 roles which are there in the market, for which you are being recruited. There are some specialized roles also. Apart from these 4-5, there is an ML engineer, machine learning engineer. Now his role is primarily to get the best model running for a particular business problem. So they are specialized people who are basically seeing only the statistics part or the probability part of the entire cycle, and they are basically suggesting you which model should be used. For example, whether we should use random forest, whether we should use decision trees, whether we should use time series models like exponential smoothing, ARIMA, GARCH, or whether we should be going for some other models like bagging, boosting, XGBoost, how we should do the hyperparameter tuning, whether the model is correct or not, how many iterations should we do. So all these specific things are being taken care by a machine learning engineer, ML engineer. So that is a much more specialized role apart from the roles which I have mentioned in this slide. All right. So this is how, these are various roles which are available in the market and where you can also develop your skills. All right. Now moving on to CRISP DM framework for analytical modeling. Guys, in case you are facing any difficulty in between, just ask your moderator, Dr. Naveen, to interrupt and ask me any questions that you want. And I hope you guys enjoy this session. My ultimate aim is not to bog you down with many facts or tell you some things which you may not want to listen. I want you guys to understand how important is analytics and FinTech per se in the BFSI sector, and particularly in the industry, because next 10 years FinTech is going to rule. So you should make sure that you are fitting somewhere in this entire cloud of data analytics, so that you are able to make better careers later, right? So all right, I'll move on to the next topic, which is CRISP DM framework. Now this is a very interesting topic because this is where the entire data analytics comes into play. Now, CRISP DM actually means cross-industry practice for data mining. Basically, this is a framework which most of the organizations in the industry are using to solve business problems. So there is something called as SRS being used, which is called as software requirement specifications. In some companies, it is also being called as BRD, which is business requirement document. And business requirement document is signed off actually in the first phase. So if you see the diagram here, there are various stages in CRISP DM framework. First one is business understanding, and next is data understanding. So next is data preparation, modeling, evaluation, and finally there is deployment. So what do we do in each of these stages? I'll tell you in brief. Business understanding. Now, business understanding is something which you have to take care after understanding what the business department is having any challenge or not. So if there is a business requirement, say for example, I'll give you one example. Say for example, there is a recovery department which is actually taking care of the number of accounts which are getting slipped into NPA category. So what will be his business challenge or business requirement? Just think about it. So ultimately, what business challenge will be to reduce the number of accounts which are turning bad or NPA, right? That would be his challenge. So how can he actually do it? He will pose this challenge to a business analyst. Say, hey, I want to reduce the number of accounts that, or I want to reduce the number of accounts which are likely to become NPA. So how recovery should be taken care? How should we recover those accounts? Should we directly go and meet the customer
and ask them to repay? Should we take care of? Should we take help of recovery agents to do that? Should we take help of a call center team to probably call those customers and be taken care? And in this entire process, how can also we reduce our transaction cost? Ultimately, a person visiting a customer involves transportation cost and a cost to the bank. So we want to increase that cost as well. So this is one business requirement which is given by a business team. This business requirement will be first taken by the business analyst. He will understand the data, because there might be a situation where the data points which are required to solve a business problem may be there, may not be there. Okay, so if it is there in the system, he will tell that yes, the data points are there. We will help you out with the model, and we will make sure that you are able to kind of solve this problem. But suppose there are no data points available. So what he will do is he will suggest back to the business department that, hey, out of these 10 variables which we feel are important to solve this problem, there are 7 variables where we already have the data, but these 3 variables we don't have the data in the system. So you have to capture data in the system for these 3 variables, and then only we'll be able to do some predictive modeling or some analytical modeling. So that is where data understanding comes into picture. Right. Now what happens is, once this data understanding is done, so if you see in the diagram also, there is a two-way communication happening between business understanding and data understanding, because data understanding will make sure that all the data points are already there in the system, right? Next, it goes to data preparation. Now, after data points and the variables are selected, data preparation is being done. So, for example, they will see what are the data points which are already there, and how should we prepare the data? Should we do feature scaling? Should we do dimensionality reduction? Out of 100 variables, how many variables are actually important for the models to be made? How many are not important? So all these things are being taken care in the data preparation phase. All right. Okay. Now next comes data modeling. Now what happens in data modeling is, you already have the data prepared. You will choose which models should be actually taken care to solve this problem. It can be a decision tree, it can be a random forest, it can be bagging boosting. So you will actually select a few models, or you will say maybe we don't require regression or a classification model, we will require a time series model. So you will actually go for a time series model, right? And then after modeling is done, you actually go for evaluation stage, right? After this, you evaluate whether your model is good enough or not. So you will check various metrics like accuracy, F1 score, AUC, RUC, ROC, AUC curve. You will check precision, you will check recall, and then after checking these metrics, you will actually finally deploy the model for the business user to use. Now, deployment actually takes place with help of your various tools like Cognos or SPSS, or even for that matter Power BI, so that those data can be represented in the form of dashboards, right? So this is when it comes to CRISP-DM framework for analytical modeling. This is one example which I have given. Actually, the thing is, since yesterday I'm having a very bad throat, so I'm kind of trying my level best to speak up so that you guys are able to understand. Today morning itself, I took one antibiotic because I don't know, there is some weather change or something. Otherwise, would have been a much better conversation. But still, I'm trying that you guys should understand. Yeah. All right. So when we actually talk about business problem understanding, now we have various roles which are being taken care by the CRISP-DM for each step. So for example, a business analyst will actually take care along with the business user about the first stage. When we talk about data preparation, it is being done by data analyst. When we talk about evaluation, it is being done by business analyst. Finally, deployment is done by data analyst. So these various steps in CRISP-DM are being taken care by different roles of a data science professional, right? I have given you some example. Like in first role, you will actually think about which customers are likely to default, how can we strengthen collections management. So these are the basic business problems which will come into your mind that you would want to solve later. right? In data understanding, what we'll have is you will actually check, hey, whether I have the required data sources with me or not. So the analysis of data we have and data that we actually need, that is being done in the second stage, data understanding, right? In data preparation, as I told you, we are doing a lot of feature engineering, dimensionality reduction, variable selection, because we are having too much of data at times, maybe having 100, 120 variables, but all of them are not important for the analysis. So we need to select few variables so that we are able to, make our analysis on the basis of those variables which are very important for us to solve a problem, right? Next is data modeling. Now here we are actually selecting the tools like R, Python. We are also selecting the machine learning algorithms, as I explained you earlier. In evaluation, we actually check how effective is the model. As I mentioned before, metrics like accuracy, ROC, AOC, F1 score, precision, recall, all these metrics are being tested, and we see whether the model is good enough or not. If our accuracy is, say, more than 80%, we go ahead with the model. We say that, yes, I think model is good enough to be considered, and we can actually use the results of the models in making decisions, right? And finally, deployment, as I told you, it can be shared in the form of Excel or a dashboard, or whatever format, CSV format, whatever format is being discussed initially, that is being taken care of, right? All right. Now let's move to types of analytics. So there are basically three types of analytics that we have. We have descriptive analytics, we have predictive analytics, and we have prescriptive analytics. So in descriptive, we actually tell about what happened. In predictive, we actually tell what will happen. And in prescriptive, we will also prescribe that, hey, what should be done? If this is a trend, if this is the historical trend, how can we actually do to improve the situation? I think some of the sessions must have covered this, but I have, placed it in a very simple format. So for you to understand it, as a basic concept. So for example, NPAs in MSME segment in Ahmedabad region have increased. This is descriptive. That means it will only tell what has happened seeing the historical data. Okay, so the NPAs have increased, or the MSME business has increased, or something like that. Second, predictive will actually tell that seeing this historical trend, NPAs are going to increase by 35% in the next financial year. So seeing the historical trend, we are predicting what will happen in the next financial year. So this is predictive analytics. Okay. Now, seeing the trend, we are just predicting what will happen. First was, we are only studying the trend and we are saying what happened before. Next, based on the trend, we were predicting the future, what is going to happen in the next year or next 2 years. Now, seeing the trend, what we are going to do is, we are also going to prescribe what should be done so that NPAs don't increase by 35%, but they increase only by 20%, right? So what should be done to decrease NPAs in MSME segments? So that is what we do in prescriptive analytics. I hope this is clear to everyone. These are the three types of analytics, and this question is mostly asked in interviews. Basic level, beginner level, this is going to be asked. So all of you should note it down somewhere that this is something which you guys should be aware of, right? All right. Basic data models used in banking. All right. So this I will just touch upon this slide, and after that we may have a 2-3 minute break wherein you can ask questions in between, right? All right. So I'll tell you what are the basic data models being used in banking. Now, there are models like customer segmentation and profiling. There are models like churn prediction. There are models of cross-sell, where we are also cross-selling insurance products in banking. This is also called as bank assurance. ATM failure analysis, we are actually predicting whether an ATM will actually fail or not, whether it will be operative in the next 7 days or not, will it run out of cash, do we have to replenish the ATM with cash, will the cash loading be done in the ATMs? So that is being done in ATM failure analysis. collections management. Now, collections, what do we actually mean by collections? Collections basically mean how we actually recover, from various people who are going to default. So there are various collection modes that we have to, check. Whether we can go for an IMPS calling, whether we can go for a call center calling, whether we should directly go and visit the customer, whether we should deploy some recovery agents to recover the dues. That all is covered in collections management. Now, when we talk of NPA, I think all of you must be aware about the concept of NPA. NPA is basically a bad loan. A bad loan basically means that it is not giving any interest to the bank anymore, and it's just a null asset for the bank, and it is standing in the books of the bank, but it is not generating any revenues to the bank. So every bank's main objective is to reduce this NPA percentage. Here I have written NPL. Basically, NPL is non-performing loans. Non-performing loans or non-performing assets, NPA, it is one and the same thing. In India, it is being called as NPA. In abroad, it is called as NPL, right? So every bank's objective is to reduce the NPL percentage. So how can we actually do it? We can actually reduce the numerator, which is the non-performing loans which are already there in the system. And at the same time, we can increase the total loan book size. So if we are doing any of these two, the NPL percentage is going to reduce. So how are we going to do it? That is something which fintechs are actually focusing on. Fintechs are actually focusing on increasing the new loan book size by giving it to good underwriters, or giving it to good customers, good credit-worthy customers. So for that, there are a lot of models being used. I'll describe it in my second session, like after this. And then, of course, there are various ways in which tech is playing a major role to reduce the amount of non-performing loans. So basically, banks are coming up with complete loan lifecycle automation systems so that every stage of loan delivery cycle is being taken care. So this is how NPL percentage is being decreased in most of the banks. All right. These are some additional data models which are used in banking. Say, for example, there is an ATM channel analysis, target and budget model, product profitability, fraud detection is being extensively used nowadays. There's a loan loss evaluation model. There's a product pricing model. There are some really interesting use cases which are being given to us. Say, for example, ACM cache optimization or recommendation engine. Now, recommendation is a very, very, very useful model. I think all of you are using Amazon and Flipkart to buy certain items, right? And suppose you buy one particular item. Once you scroll down, they'll also recommend you similar products, right? They'll recommend you that, yeah, these are the similar. Suppose you are buying a mobile. So if you are seeing a mobile, you go down, you will see recommended products. They will give you mobile screen cover. They will give you a mobile cover. They will give you maybe, something which can be added to the mobile, for example, a TWS speaker, or something, a Bluetooth connector or something like that. Okay, a USB cord, something like that. So basically, these are the wonderful use cases of artificial intelligence and machine learning, wherein we are actually using collaborative filtering as a ML algorithm. We are using item-to-item collaborative filtering, wherein we are predicting what a customer is actually using, and we are recommending it with the help of recommendation engine. So in banking, we are using the same concept. So suppose you have bought a particular product in bank. Say, for example, you have a gold bond being taken from the bank. So we will study people who have already taken gold bond in the bank previously. We will study their pattern, and then we will recommend people who are having similar kind of attributes to canvas for gold bond, because then we know that yes, if this kind of customer has taken gold bond, we are more hopeful that this particular set of customers will also be likely to take a gold bond. So that is basically a predictive modeling that we do. And recommendation engine, what we'll do is, if suppose a customer is having gold bond, vehicle loan, and a personal loan. Suppose a customer is having gold bond, vehicle loan, and a personal loan. The new customer who is having similar attributes, he might have taken a vehicle loan only, but he might not have taken gold loan and personal loan. So we will recommend that since the customers are similar in nature or similar in character or similar in consumer behavior, we will recommend him a personal loan as well as a gold bond to be taken. So that is how recommendation engine is being taken care of, right? All right, stages of making a machine learning model. This is something that I will cover maybe after a 2-minute break. Before that, I will, just want you guys to ask any questions if you have, because as I told you, I'm having a very bad throat. I'm trying to, make myself audible to all of you. I hope you guys are enjoying the session. In case there is any question to be asked, you guys can ask. If you want to take a 5-minute break, we can have a 5-minute break also, because the next part of the session, the second part of the session, is going to be even more interesting. So, Dr. Naveen, it's up to you now. If you want to take a 5-minute break, and then maybe we can join.
Yeah, you can take, sir. It's up to you.
Yeah. And hope all of you are enjoying the session. In case there is any question, you guys keep the questions ready. We will have the question answer session also towards the end of the lecture. But before that also, you can ask anytime. Yeah. Okay, Dr. Naveen. So can we meet at 11:10 if that is okay? We'll just have a 10-minute break.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem. And then meanwhile, you can also invite more participants. You can tell whether the speaker is good enough or not. So so
No,
maybe
yeah.
that will help others. Yeah.
I just informed participants to join, but few have joined, but maybe some are busy with other engagements.
No sure. Because I would want maximum students to understand and make use of this session, because ultimately it's all for building their careers at the end of the day. And that is what an institution looks forward to, right? Its students should be placed with higher salaries and with good pay packages. So I would want many more people to benefit from this session.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Naveen. So we'll meet at 11:10. Will that be fine enough?
Yeah, fine.
Okay, guys. See you at 11:10. Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Naveen, I think we can restart the session.
Yes, we can start. Participants, if you have any query, sir is back,
Yeah.
so you can ask him anything.
Yeah, because some queries will make it more interesting. I will also feel that everybody is involved.
Yes, right. So any query if you have related to fintech and banking, you have asked earlier. Participants was asked earlier in 1 or 2 days back with some other expert that what is the role of fintech in banking, and so I informed that you have session with Dr. Shaleen on last day, so you can ask with him. So
I thought the last day is going to be a grand finale, so I all I was all geared up to get so many queries from the participants, but yes, it's
right.
yeah, no, I can understand. It's
So shall I?
Yeah.
Shall I ask?
Yeah, I think Amrita is
I
about to
have a
ask.
very yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm really enjoying your session. It's really very informative. But
Thank you.
my query
Amrita,
is
can you be a little
something,
louder? I'm
relevant.
not able to hear you. I mean,
Am I audible? Am I
yeah.
audible, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is a little relevant. I just need to understand the difference between business intelligence and business analytics,
Right.
with some relevant example.
Right. So, business intelligence and business analytics, they are, kind of interdependent. We cannot separate them completely. They are kind of interdependent. But when we actually talk about the entire cloud of artificial intelligence, I guess we must be aware that artificial intelligence is a bigger circle. Under artificial intelligence, we have machine learning as a subset, and under machine learning, we have deep learning as a further subset. So artificial intelligence, if we talk about, we are basically focusing on computers which are trying to perform the tasks of a human being. When we go further down in machine learning, we want machines to learn on its own on the basis of data set or the data values that we are actually giving it to. And finally, when it comes to deep learning, we are actually telling machines to learn in a specific way. And there we are also using artificial neural networks, CNN, convolutional neural networks, etc. Coming to business intelligence. Now, business intelligence is more towards performing actions where we are focusing towards fraud detection algorithms and ways where we can actually prevent some frauds happening in our business organization. Say, for example, when we talk of business intelligence in banking, we are focusing more towards fraud detection algorithms, so that any frauds happening in ATM transactions or any frauds happening in customer transactions, we should be able to prevent, and we should have algorithms made to basically solve those fraud detection problems. When it comes to business analytics, we are basically focusing on various other aspects of the organization. So for example, we are trying to solve an organization's retail department's problem, or we are trying to solve an MSME department's problem. Say for example, an MSME department of the organization will actually tell you how you should actually increase the business of MSME, or how you should reduce the NPS of MSME. So business analytics will come to play that role. So even though intelligence and analytics are interdependent, just to make sure that their importance is heard in a specific way in the industry, these are the two different terms being used.
Okay, all right, sir, all right. So also when we talk about these like big basket or some other
Can you be a
startups,
little louder
so they
again?
are completely
Sorry.
like, yeah. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, it's better now. Yes.
Better. So I was just asking, if we talk about, say, the big basket or such kind of a app or other startups also. So where BA and BI both are parallelly running, right?
Right.
So they are independent, right? I mean,
Right.
having their own role. Okay.
The data points can be similar, but they are being, taken care. Some data points will obviously similar. For example, customer transaction reference number or customer ID or, some amount or things like that. But when it comes to BI, we are having even more deeper penetration into transactional data also. So when it comes to transactional data, going deep into transactional data, it requires more computational power than normal analytics, because when we are actually seeing transaction data, its file size itself is huge. It's a 150 TB or a 200 TB file, and then that transactional data, extracting that transactional data is itself a huge task. Whereas simpler problems like a recommendation engine or a normal analytics ML problem will not require that much of computational power to be used. So different skill sets are required for BI rather than for other different models. So that is where a thin line of difference lies between both of them.
Understood, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Any other question, Dr. Naveen? It's good that I got a very good question from Amrita. And,
Yes.
So, Dr. Naveen, if I can ask you, the participants that we have with us are all the students, or some of them are professors or faculty? How are they?
No, they all are faculty members.
Okay, great,
Yes.
great. So then it becomes even more interesting, because they can, even guide it further to the students to take up these courses.
Right.
Okay, fine. I forgot it's a faculty development program. Yeah.
Yes, it's a faculty development. So we have around 40 faculties from different institute, around 40 institute. Yes,
Great.
From Gujarat only.
Great.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So, Dr. Naveen, if we don't have any other question, maybe I'll just wait for half a minute more, and then we can restart the session.
Yeah. Another question, participants, if you have that.
Sir, can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Just to make them relevant, just to make students relevant, to the syllabus and, the practical approaches or maybe the applications they are using in day-to-day life. Other than recommendation model, which we are using on e-commerce portal, can we, raise an appropriate example so that they can have more clarity as far as business analytics models are concerned? You were, just explaining the same concept, that slide, so that would be really easier for students also to relate the concept and, for example, if they're very much okay, so they can make the career in the same, right? So can you please help me with that, sir?
Definitely. In fact, whenever I speak to students, they ask me this question, that, sir, how should we start? We want to do many things, but sometimes we are not able to start. So I tell them that there are various models in place, and there are various repositories there available in the internet. Like, for example, Kaggle is there, GitHub is there, where there are various kinds of competitions being posted, and a lot of Python codes and scripts are already there. So a simplest script which even a beginner can begin with is how to develop a sentiment analysis model. So a recommendation engine is obviously a little advanced model, but sentiment analysis model is very easy. So to begin with, you can tell your students sentiment analysis using Python. What you have to do is you just have to get the APIs. Sentiment analysis can be using Twitter, or it can be using Facebook, but I would recommend using Twitter because that's a relatively easier model. So what you have to do is you have to just log into your Twitter dashboard. You will have to get their API keys. You have to put it into your Python code, and then you will be able to analyze whether a person is actually giving a positive tweet or a negative tweet. What is his sentiment about a particular product, or suppose a particular customer? Say, for example, you would want to know some person's keyword, that how is that particular thing is being taken care by the customers in a positive or a negative way, then you have to actually make a word cloud. So making a word cloud, understanding those keywords which are coming in good, which are coming in bad. So this Twitter sentiment analysis is a very good use case where you can actually begin with your Python or a data science journey. And as you told, as I have given you one entire landscape of what are the various roles, in a data science journey, that will actually give them a clarity of where they stand and what they can actually do. Because some people might be very good in coding and programming languages. Some people might be having a
Sorry
very
to
good,
interrupt.
yeah,
Can I add something?
yeah,
Um,
surely,
so,
surely,
so yeah, from managerial perspective,
yeah,
for management students, I was asking that, some relevant example where they can have more clarity, they can, have more relevancy in terms of understanding different model. I wanted to understand because
okay,
these are, students who are not very much familiar with coding and all.
right,
But as in future, they will be working on data, handling bulk data. So
right,
I wanted to understand the same concept from, you know, uh, maybe, from their perspective.
okay,
So that,
okay. Got it. So I think simpler models,
Actually,
yeah,
actually, Dr. Shaleen, we have majority of the faculty member from management background,
right,
because management background is management department is organizing the program. So
right,
the participants are also, majority of the participants are from,
from
so they
management,
are not so much technical in coding
right,
and all.
right,
So
right,
if you give some example related to little bit coding and management point of view, so
right,
they will be able to understand.
correct, correct. So, some model names which I'll tell you, they are very good to, which management people can understand. First, and the basic model is customer segmentation and profiling. So this is a basic model which can be used and can be applied in any industry, be it banking, be it finance, be it healthcare, because ultimately the role of data analytics or fintechs is to understand its customer. So in customer segmentation and profiling model, what we do is we basically see some of the parameters and we rate the customers. Say, for example, we take age as a variable. We take vintage as a carrier as a variable. Vintage basically means how long is the association of that particular customer with our organization. Then we take balance. What is the average balance that he has maintained in banking parlance? I'll just tell you. So age, vintage, average balance which he is maintaining, product holding. Product holding is basically how many products is the customer actually holding with you, and of course the location. Where is the customer actually residing? Is he residing in a rural area, in a semi-urban area, urban area, metro area? So accordingly, we do customer segmentation and profiling so that we are able to understand our set of customers to whom we have to actually market our products. So for example, a person of age bracket between 20 to 25, he is more tech savvy, so we can offer him products purely on a digital platform. Whereas a person who is in the age bracket of say 45 to 50, he may be knowing how to open WhatsApp, do Facebook, but he may not be so or gadget friendly. We may apply a strategy which is known as phygital. Phygital means physical as well as digital. So one of the models is customer segmentation and profiling, right? Next one model is
yes,
called
sir.
cross sell model. The cross sell model is basically when you actually have a particular set of customers and you want to cross sell some other products of your organization. So management students will be able to understand this because every organization will have a basket of products wherein they would want to have one products ready, and they would also want to cross sell some other products of their organization depending on the virtues and attributes of the customers. So first is customer segmentation profiling, second is your cross sell model, third there is a model which is called as churn prediction model. Now churn is again applicable to all the industries. Now what we actually do in that, I'll tell you. Churn means how many are actually moving out of your organization.
as customers, because you may be having n customers, but if out of 100 customers there are 20 customers which are going away from you every month, your objective from an organization perspective is to retain those customers, right? So before they actually churn out or they actually move out, you have to make a model and you have to apply some strategy to retain that customer, right? So that in a simplistic way is known as churn prediction model. Now if you ask me to go deeper into it, I can also tell you the technical aspect of it, of how we are actually making a churn prediction model. So we are actually using a technique known as TPM, which is transition probability matrix, using Markov's chain rule. Now, what we are basically doing is we are dividing the customers into 24 different probability states, and we are actually rating those customers based on low risk and high risk. And we are targeting only those high risk customers who are likely to churn out or go out of your organization in the next 6 months. And then we target those customers, we apply our marketing strategies to retain them. That is how a churn prediction model is there. Right. So I have told you customer segmentation profiling, cross-sell, churn prediction, recommendation engine I have already told you. And one more model in general which I can think of is, I think these 4 should be good enough, because others are more of banking related. So which
So I think it's, yeah, they will have clarity, I guess. So
Yeah.
probably the PPTs you will be sharing will really help me to, again, explain them,
Correct.
that.
Correct. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, so 100%. It's really very clear now. Thank you so much, sir.
Great. All right. So, Dr. Naveen, are we having any other question, or we can move?
Any participants, if you have question, otherwise we can move forward to the second half of the session.
And now that I know all the participants are faculty members, I have special and deep regards to all the faculty members, because I mean the role that you guys are playing to the students, I think hats off to you guys. I mean, you are basically nurturing and setting the future of so many candidates across Gujarat. So deep respect to all of you. Before I actually begin, right? So I'll share the PPT and I'll quickly move ahead.
Right.
Is the PPT visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll quickly move to, I think I stopped here. So yeah, I'll quickly move to these areas. Stages of making a machine learning model. Now, when we actually talk about a machine learning model, I mean, there is a common hindrance, is that we being management professionals, we have never done C, C++, Java coding. Will we be able to do coding, or should we actually think of going into a fintech role or a machine learning role, where we might have to do a lot of coding? But trust me, I'll give you my own example. I am having engineering background. Of course, I have done my MBA also, PhD also. But then I have also never been a very good coder, to be very frank. C, C++, although I just had it in my engineering background, but I was never a good coder. So even I was a little apprehensive whether I should take up machine learning or whether I should go deep into data analytics or not. But trust me, languages like Python are very intuitive based languages. I mean, you can actually start creating your products once you get into it, because it's not a rocket science. You just have to practice. You just have to practice, take the codes. And nowadays there are so many good websites like Kaggle and GitHub where entire code is already there with you. So you just need to understand. You have to, for example, I'll tell you, in Python, it usually starts with what is pandas, what is numpy, how do you actually import those libraries, what is cbond, what is matplotlib, and how do you actually do data visualization and things like that. So Initially, you might feel it, that you're not able to understand, but trust me, 10 sessions, if you are able to crack and you are able to have that patience for 10 sessions, from 11th session you will actually start enjoying coding in Python. So for those of the students which you guys are guiding, if they are having any doubts on their coding or programming abilities, you can just tell them not to be afraid. Just get a good data science or a Python course, do that course professionally, and trust me, they will be able to develop skills, and maybe 3 to 4 months is a good enough time for them to develop skills, right? So here also, if we see how ML model is made, so a data processing is being done by seeing what are the outliers, what are the missing values. You do label encoding. There are various types of encoding: one hot encoding, label encoding, where you are actually basically seeing the variables that you are having, and the nominal variables you are basically converting them into numbers. So, and missing values are there, so you are imputing missing values either with mean, median, or mode, depending on the problem that you have on hand. Then feature scaling you are doing, then there is dimensionality reduction which you are doing. So a lot of things are happening actually at data processing level. Then it comes choosing an ML algorithm. As I told you, there are various algorithms: logistic regression, random forest, SVM, neural networks, KNN, which you are basically using. So finally, you optimize models with the help of metrics like accuracy, precision, recall, F1 score, etc. Now let me cut this slide in a very summarized way. The 3 stages which you are seeing on the slide, I'll tell you my practical experience: data processing, choosing algorithm, optimization of model. Out of these 3 stages, the most critical phase, where 80% of your time actually goes, is stage 1, data processing. Because data is available. Many of you must have spoken about that data is the new oil and things like that. Data is available in abundance. You have so much of structured data, you have so much of unstructured data, you have a lot of data. The only thing is how to process it. Just like how oil processing is done, and it's a very tedious task. Data processing is the main part. How you process it, how you make use of it, how 100 variables that you have, you select only 5 depending on the feature scaling and the dimensionality and the correlation that we have. Say for example, out of 100 variables, if there are 50 variables which are highly correlated to each other, then we may not actually want to use all 50 of them. We may use only 5 out of those 50 which are relevant for us to make the model. Otherwise, the models will become overfitting. Whenever we are making a model, we actually divide the data set into training data set and test data set. So in training data set, we actually apply the model, and the test data is used to check and validate whether the training data set model which we have created is good enough or not. But if you have too many variables which are auto-correlated to each other, then what will happen is there will be overfitting of the model happening in the training data set. So the model will work with very good accuracy in training data set, but when we have a test data set applied to it, it will not work the way that we want. So basically, that is how data processing is the most important stage when we actually make a ML model. On the right hand side, you can see a flow diagram. This is nothing but a decision tree ML algorithm. Of course, this in itself is a big exercise to explain. I can't explain it of course, in this session. This is being used with the help of a NIME analytics software, a very, very important and a very simple ML algorithm, decision tree. All right. Moving on, I'll now just give a brief description of the practical examples which are being used. Now, this is a collections model which is being made in a software called as NIME. Now, this is a very simple drag and drop model. You have a CSV reader, you have a missing value common filter, you do partitioning of the data, then you take a decision tree learner, a predictor, then you get a score. So here, whatever input you are giving as a CSV file, that is something different. The statistic tools which you are applying is different. But nowadays, things are becoming so simple that NIME Analytics software like this can actually automate a lot of things, and you are not too much dependent on coding also at the end of the day. So there will be a time, maybe in 4 to 5 years from now, that even Python coding may not be so relevant, and there will be ready-made models available wherein you can just drag and drop. You can create some input values, you can create some predictors, and you can actually take the model ahead. So this is how simple things are going to become in next 3 to 4 years. Now, when we actually talk about various other industry models, of course, banking, there are few models like LDA, logistic regression, boosting, card. For other industries like retail, there are products, there are algorithms like market basket analysis, RFM analysis, recency, frequency, monetary. There's a time series forecasting model. So every model has its own aspect. Like in retail, you will get some actionable insights for improving sales of a consumer durable business, using just POS data analytics. So that can be another use case in itself. In banking, myself, I have been using more than 50 data models for solving different kinds of problems. So just imagine the kind of use cases or the models which are going to be developed in future. So there's going to be a huge demand. In healthcare also, of course, you need to know the importance of confusion matrix, and you should know the true positives, true negatives, and how we can actually make use of customer data for predicting healthcare use cases. Again, there are a lot of contents being there. ADA Boost is there, Random Forest is there. For a supply chain demand forecasting model also, analytics can be used. Various other models are there, especially in supply chain. Neural networks are a big important tool when it comes to solving supply chain problems. And of course, social media, tapping social media sentiments, as I told to Amrita madam just 10 minutes back, that you can actually make a sentiment analysis using Twitter or Facebook, so that will also be helpful to know where our particular social media trends are going on. So this is also happening as a use case when it comes to analytics being used. Next is how to develop skills in analytics. Now, this is something which all of you faculty members can take it ahead to the students, so that they feel interested in developing skills in analytics. So this is just a very small brief which I have given. You need not just have a deep knowledge on it, but at least you should know what are these things, so that once you are going deep into analytics, these things will obviously you will come across these things. For example, in maths, a basic 12th level maths will be good enough, where you should know about vectors, matrices, what is transpose of a matrix, what is a dot product, what is a derivative, what is a gradient, how do you calculate the slope, what is a line, what is a plane, what is a hyperplane, because ultimately these concepts are used if you want to understand analytics in a deeper way. A simple dot product, or how a scalar is used, how a vector is used, what is the transpose of a matrix, why is a particular matrix being created, because there are concepts like PCA, which is principal component analysis. In all that, what we are doing is we are basically dividing the matrix into two different matrices, and then we are doing dimensionality reduction. So for that, you need to have a little bit of maths basics. But then don't get afraid, this is not being used too much. Of course, it has its own values when it comes to basic understanding, but then it is not required as such also to begin. I mean, you these things can be learned as and when you actually go deep into the analytics domain. Next is programming basics. As I told you, in Python, now R versus Python, there is a lot of debate going on which language is better. Now R is basically a statistical tool, which has more relevance to statistics. But when it comes to Python, now Python has taken over from R, because now Python it's an open source software which is being used by so many industries, so many people around, and and it's very easy also. It's very user friendly. When you start using Python on Jupyter Notebook, you will actually realize that importing libraries and importing things and doing data visualization on Python is very, very easy. Sometimes a very big ML problem can be solved using just 28 to 30 product code lines. That's it, and the entire model will be ready. So there are very simple use cases also available on Kaggle, GitHub, where you can actually use Jupyter Notebook. Data basics. Now, data basics are very important to understand. At least you should know in what all formats is the data available. Whether we can input the file in CSV or a PDF or a text file, how we can actually clean the data, how should we actually impute data, what are the various data transformation techniques. As I mentioned, PCA, principal component analysis, LDA is there, linear discriminant analysis. So some data basics, you should understand, and then it will become easier for you to go deeper into analytics. Next is probability and statistics. I think most of the students are already knowing this. Is just that you will have to revise it, what you have learned in, maybe class 12th or, in their engineering or some other background. Even commerce background people do know all these things. Mean, median, mode, standard deviation, correlation, how is the distribution, binomial, Poisson, what is p-value, if p-value is less than 0.5, then how to reject the null hypothesis, how not to reject the null hypothesis. So all these things are basics which you should know. Next is ML basics. ML basics, again, you should know what is the difference between a regression model and a classification model, where categorical variable is used, where continuous variable is used, how should you predict the output in case of a classification model, what is a supervised learning model, what is an unsupervised learning model. Now, supervised learning model, you have a definite output, but in unsupervised learning, you don't actually know what is the output. And there are various algorithms like clustering which are actually able to give you or predict the output that you want. Again, that's a different session altogether. It's a 1 hour session in itself. How a supervised learning model should be made, how an unsupervised learning model should be made. Next up is time series analysis. Now, this is very important because most of the current generation models are using time series, because the variables that we are predicting as an output are continuous variables. So even, for example, the stock market prediction or the stock price prediction is basically a time series model where you are actually predicting how will the price move in the next coming 6 months or 12 months or next 5 years. Similarly, if you talk about business figures, how are the sales going to change in the next 5 years or 4 years? So in that, you use time series models. Like ARIMA model is there, SARIMA model is there. SARIMA is seasonal ARIMA. So all these models are being used, and then you have various tools like PACF, ACF, where you are using variables like P, D, and F to actually check whether the models are good enough or not. You use differencing techniques to actually make the models, and then you have the graphs PACF and ACF being used to predict the time series analysis. So these are some of the basics that if you are aware of, it becomes easier for you to go deeper into analytics. All right, so I have another 15 minutes to go. So in that, I'll just describe how should one choose a business analytics course. There are various courses in the market, as I told you. Every other B school is actually giving a business analytics course in some form or the other. But it is very important for us to guide students to select a course which actually is meeting up the requirements of industry. There are some courses who will only teach you theoretical gyan, which is not at all useful. I mean, a person can be spoken about importance, this and that, but unless there is a tech component to it, unless people are actually making some models hands-on, those courses are not useful. So according to me, business intelligence or business understanding part of a business analytics course should be 10%. Statistics and probability should have around 10%. Basic analytics should be 30%, like basics of Python, data visualization, etc. should comprise about 10%, 30%. Advanced analytics like deep learning, artificial neural networks should be around 30%, and 20% of the course should be on capstone projects or practical industry-led projects where people are actually solving the problem. So there should be at least 5-6 industry problems given to students in that particular program so that they are able to make the models and able to implement analytics. So according to me, this is how a good analytics course should look like. All right, so when it comes to online courses in data science, I have listed down the top 5 online courses. These are very good, and if you are able to crack these courses, you will be able to generate a lot of information. So the first one is Professional Certificate Course in Data Science from Harvard University. This is available on edX platform. Then you have one specialization course from Johns Hopkins University. It is available on Coursera platform. Then you have IBM Data Science Professional Certificate. It is again available on Coursera. There is a course by edX on MIT, by MIT, Micro Masters Program in Statistics. That is also one of the very popular courses. And there is an Applied Data Science with Python specialization. Again, that is by University of Michigan. It is available on Coursera platform. This is also a very renowned course. So these 5 courses are good courses for students to take up, and people do learn a lot of analytics from these courses. All right, moving on, how to prepare for interviews. I think more than me, I think all the faculty members will be much more experienced in getting their students prepared for interviews. So of course, I'll just quickly run through these slides. Now, these are basically role-wise how skills are important for various roles. So as I told you, data analyst, data engineer, data scientist, ML engineer, all of them are different. So these bubbles are actually showing how much a particular skill is important for a particular role. For example, a data scientist should know machine learning, statistics, data wrangling, visualization, programming tools, everything. You should be knowing almost everything. As I told you, the entire full responsibility lies with the data scientist. Whereas a data engineer should be more having importance in programming tools, data wrangling, and he should know much more about software engineering. When it comes to an ML engineer, he should be very good in statistics, machine learning, and algebra, calculus, and things like that also. So this is basically a snapshot of the importance of these skills in a particular role. So again, there are a lot of job opportunities available for each of these roles, where responsibilities, skills required, experience, again, it differs from organization to organization. So for example, in banking, we are generally looking for people who have skills in banking and BFSI domain, because we want students to have certain exposure in understanding business requirements. Because if there are people who are working in tech companies like TCS, Infosys, and they have worked for a banking client, we will prefer those students, because they will at least know what a banker actually wants, because ultimately you are solving a banker's problem. So you should know what is an NPA, what is an SMA, what do you mean by a special mention account, what do you mean by an NPA account, what do you mean by a current account, what do you mean by a saving account. These are simple things that we would want the candidates to know, because then for us it will not be difficult for us to guide him or teach him about banking basics. If he is having some exposure to a banking client, we will prefer that. So in experience section, at times we write 5 years experience with at least 2 years experience in BFSI domain. That means we want the candidates to be having some experience in BFSI domain. So why I have put a question mark is because these responsibilities, skills required differ from organization to organization, right? All right. Now, this is typically the responsibilities of a person who is heading an analytics division. Say, for example, I am right now heading my analytics division. So these are the responsibilities that I should have, for an analytics team to work in a professional way. I have a team of 10 people working under me who are actually, we are actually taking care of all the parts. So I have with me data engineers, data analysts, data scientists. So we have to train them in such a way that they are able to meet our objectives. So we have to make a short-term, medium-term, and a long-term goal so that our analytics strategies and visions are in line with the organization's vision, and we have to we have to build a robust team so that we can collaborate with IT and also talk about data governance, because data governance is very important nowadays. Data security, data privacy is an issue which has to be dealt with proper care. So all those things are being taken care when you are heading a particular analytics team, right? All right. So next up is effective CV building. Well, this I don't think I need to talk about because you guys are much more experienced than me for this. And of course, I mean, these are some pointers which you can give to your candidates of how your CV should look like. It should be less of a mess, and it should be not be cluttered, and it should highlight what are the basic skills. A professional font should be there. You should present yourself as a problem solver, because ultimately when we are selecting students, we want them to be problem solvers and not problem givers. We want them to have some project being worked on so that you are taken as problem solver. Then of course you have to use all these pointers so that your CV looks very good. A LinkedIn profile is also very important nowadays, because many recruiters and people who are hiring, they are looking at your LinkedIn profile. So you should have a very crisp and clear LinkedIn profile. You should know what all to keep in that. There should be a custom profile URL. Of course, you should have a good professional photo. The headline should be straight, that yes, Chief Manager, Business and Data Analytics. That's it. I mean, the headline should be clear so that the person who's interested will go more deeper into your profile. You should include your certifications. As I mentioned, the courses which you have done in data science, you should mention that, because then it becomes easier for us to spot the talent, because then you will be able to showcase your talent as well. You should add your interests. You should optimize your experience section. You should not write too much in your experience section. You should optimize it so that we are able to make relevant information out of it. Then of course there are some, you also get some recommendations on LinkedIn. So all these pointers are useful when it comes to LinkedIn profile grooming. All right, so if I have to summarize now, if I have to really summarize my entire 2-hour session into one slide, I will tell you that gone are the days when we were actually looking only for business professionals. Gone are the days when we were actually looking only for management professionals. We are now looking for a person who is having knowledge of business as well as technology. Okay, so you can tell obviously your candidates, of course this you might be telling also, to read one financial newspaper every day, check out the sector of their choice, know everything about that sector. Okay, so a person belonging from finance should know about what is happening in banking and finance. Person who is more keen towards insurance, he should take care of the insurance sector, right from what is the FDI percentage allowed, what all insurance companies are doing, what is the marketing strategy they are doing, what is the distribution strategy that they are doing, what are the innovations being done in insurance. Tech companies are also there, just like FinTech companies. How are they becoming a game changer? How are they driving innovation? Because innovation can be driven not only there are two types. There is a captive innovation, and then there is partnership with insurance tech companies. So you should be able to decide whether you are going for a captive innovation or an insurtech company. So the idea of this slide is to tell you that we want a person who is good enough, having good functional knowledge. That is obviously a primary thing, but at the same time he should be aware about technology also. He should be having at least some knowledge on Python, R, SAS, or he should have at least worked in a machine learning model. Because if you have the right combination of both business and technology, I'm sure you are going to get a very good package in the industry, and you will be able to thrive and succeed also in the industry. Yes, if you are not too good in tech, good enough, there are roles for credit managers, financial analysts, and all those roles are also there. They are available and they will always be available. I'm not saying that those roles are vanishing. No, they will be there. But then those who want to make an edge above the rest, it's the technology aspect that they have to imbibe along with the functional knowledge that we have. All right. So that is it from my side. Before I actually move out, for those who are interested in banking basic concepts, I have also shared the link of YouTube channel which I have. Even though lately I have not been able to post many videos, but some basics in banking like repo rate, reverse repo rate, what is क्या कहते हैं, what the various RBI monetary tools, how are we actually taking up various initiatives, what is a bad bank model, how should we make a bad bank model, what are the global bad bank models, how India's proposed model like NARCL, all of you must be aware, National Asset Reconstruction Company, how should a bad bank model be. So all these things I have covered in my YouTube channel. If at all you get any time, do watch some of the videos. I have given my banking basics playlist just in case you want to develop a banking knowledge. Rest, of course, I'm there for Q&A session now. So I think just stop sharing the slide and I think I'll go back to the.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
So can I ask?
Yeah.
So you were sharing that you had
Can you be a little louder, ma'am? Sorry.
Yeah. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah. Perfect.
So for our management student perspective, can we access any of your videos that can help them to analyze what all skills would be required, if they really want to make their career in the area of BA and BI, though they are not very much techno, friendly, but
Right.
still, by doing such kind of short-term courses or maybe, by attending such workshops, if, it can help them. So can you just share or can you just help us for the same?
Sure, ma'am. Actually, I wanted to put some videos on analytics also. I have this YouTube channel, Key Pointers, where I have basically around 22 videos on banking basics. So that I have made, but for analytics, I have made just one video on how to do analytics in banking. But future, maybe next couple of months, I will be posting videos right from scratch, of how to develop skills in data analytics. And I think those videos will be very useful for you.
Yes, sir. And so if you don't mind, can we have your mail ID? So any kind of assistance in the area of BA or BI, it would be really big help for us also
Surely. Sure.
Yes.
So can I just can I type somewhere here, Dr. Naveen? But I think this chat option is not available. I'll just tell you my email ID. It is Dr. SHALEEN Dr. Shaleen 410.
Yeah, so just a second.
Yeah.
Can I just type it? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Can you please repeat?
Yeah, Dr.
Mm.
SHALEEN Dr. Shaleen
Mm.
410
Yes, sir.
@gmail.com.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Sure.
So
Thank
we
you so much for
surely-
your active participation.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Dr. Naveen, I will also provide my email ID in the WhatsApp group, which I think you have. So in case people who have missed the email ID, they can also get it back. Any other questions for people who joined or anyone else who would want to ask? We have almost wrapped up in time. Yeah, time is money. So everybody, I hope I have not wasted your Saturday morning. I hope you were able to get a thing out of this. But would have loved to have all of you interacting. So Dr. Naveen, we will wait.
Any question, participant?
Yeah.
Yeah, any question,
Sir, actually, I
participants,
don't
if
have
you
any
have?
question.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear someone speaking.
Yes, Seema madam,
Sir,
please, you can ask
am
if
I
you
audible?
have any. Yes, you are
Hello.
audible, but yes, you can ask, madam. Go ahead.
Uh, Sir, actually, I was there with you continuously, and I actually am very happy that the confusions were very clear when we teach finance and when we teach marketing and HR. There are sometimes that we cannot like relate them with the technology. Sometimes there is a problem, and you gave us such a model, and in case we will look forward and we can look forward in videos and other things, then we can relate them with the technology that is related with financial sector. So I'm really happy, and also how this technology actually is being used by the normal public is also very helpful. Sir, your knowledge was like very helpful to me, and I will surely pass on to my students. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for those kind words. In fact, even if I'm there in the industry for last 12 years, I always love speaking to students and faculty members because this is something this is something which I love doing. So I will definitely, as per my schedules, I will definitely be in touch with all of you. In case you guys want me anytime for your students, I will try to make myself available.
So your session was really, really very informative. And this is something, this subject is something which really what I wanted to explore, just to make my student more familiar, just so that they can, relate the syllabus topic or the syllabus with the practical approaches. So that's really nice. Thank you, sir. It was really
Thank you so
nice.
much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you for your lovely feedback.
Any question, participants, if you have? Uh, it's actually very good practice to being in touch with academia and industry. We are doing industry kind of thing. So because being a faculty, you need to keep in touch with the real-time market situation, and the real-time market situation will only provide by the corporate people, those who are working on. So it is, yeah, it is very informative session for me also. So being like techno friendly is a good thing, because sometimes we have not so much of technical background, like we are from management people, like so we keep on trying to learn some technical things, and so it is a suggestion to all the faculty members to keep in touch with the technology, because this is a new era which is aligned towards the technology, and it is very good to try to learn Python. And I did my PhD using R, so I analyzed my whole the data with the like R Studio. So I also try to learn Python, and you have suggested so many of courses on Coursera and edX. So we definitely gone through these courses, and sorry, I was not introduced you in the beginning. I was forget to introduce you with the participants. So, but it was a wonderful session. Participants were also enjoyed. And last question, if you have any question, participants, so you can ask. Else uh, we can just close this session. We have another session after 15 minutes. So, any question if you have?
I think it's very nice, Dr. Naveen. Since you have another session after 15 minutes, I will not keep keep the participants waiting also. Definitely, I think I have shared my email ID with all of you, and you guys can get
Right, you have joined the group also. I have noticed. So participants, if you have any query, you can ask in our WhatsApp group also. So we are not closing this group after this FDP. This is ongoing process, and you can anytime you can ask or you can interact with any expert. So few experts have already joined. So we can keep on sharing our views and like future FDPs and opportunities. So it is a collaborative thing. So thank you, Dr. Shaleen, for the wonderful session. Thank you very much. So hope we will meet again.
Yeah, surely. Thank you, Dr. Naveen, for giving me this opportunity. And once again, before I sign off, I would like to pay my respect to all the faculty members. You know, all of you are doing a wonderful job in shaping the careers of so many people. So my respect with all of you will always be there. Thank you so much for your kind participation. Have a very nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.